Hello everyone, welcome into the Take Care Man channel. In this video, I'm going to go over the razors mentioned by all of the wet shaving YouTubers in the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 challenge. At the end of 2019, I started a challenge video where I listed my 5 top favorite shaving soaps, 4 favorite post-shave products, 3 favorite brushes, 2 favorite razors, and 1 favorite blade. In the first video in this series, I covered the soaps. In the second video, I covered the post-shave products. In this video, I'm going to cover the razors. Now, some of the YouTubers that did their videos did more than 2 razors. Some of them started out with 5 razors instead of 5 soaps. And then there were some who did 4, and some did 3, and some did only 1. Some did straight razors instead of DE razors, or they did a single edge razor, sort of a mix. So I compiled all those results. There was a total of 188 razor picks from all of those YouTubers that recorded a video in this series. So let's look first at the top razor brands mentioned. The brand most often mentioned was Gillette. And in that case, we're talking about a lot of vintage razors. So there was a variety of different ones mentioned. We'll get to the specifics of those in just a minute. Coming in at a close second was Rockwell with 23 mentions. McCurr had 13, Razor Rock and Carve had 11 each, Blackland had 9, Feather had 6, Leaf, Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements, and Parker had 4 mentions, and there were 6 different brands that had 3 mentions. So let's look at the different razors mentioned underneath each brand. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you the top razors regardless of which brand they come from. And here I'm giving you a little sneak peek at the spreadsheet that's got all the results from the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 videos. Here we're looking at the Gillette razors mentioned. And you can see in the spreadsheet here I have the actual YouTuber name that mentioned that particular Gillette razor. And the Gillette razors, it took 2 screens to fit these on here to show you. And the thing about the vintage Gillettes, there's so many different variations depending on what year, whether it was released in the UK or in the US, etc. You can see here some of the ones mentioned: the Aristocrat, the Fat Boy, the Slim Adjustable, the Slim Twist, the Super Speed, and then the Super Speed Red Tip. And I should note that if you look in the description, you will see a link to the playlist for all of these videos done by these different YouTubers. So if you want to see why a particular YouTuber liked that razor, you can go check out their video and hear them talk more about it. Moving on to the Rockwell, breaking down those 23 mentions, 13 of those were for the Rockwell 6C, and 10 of those were for the Rockwell 6S. The 6C is the chrome version. It comes in gunmetal and in chrome. And the 6S is the stainless version, and it comes in a variety of different finishes. Okay, moving on, we see McCurr had 13 mentions. 6 of those were for the 34C. 1 mention was for the 34G, which is just the gold version of the 34C. So basically 7 mentions for the 34C type razor. Couple mentions for the Future, and then 3 mentions for the Progress. Okay, Razor Rock had a total of 11 mentions. 4 of those were for the .68 Game Changer, and 4 of those were for the .84 Game Changer. And I've noted out in the far right-hand corner whether or not someone mentioned the open comb version. So that's what the OC is for there on 2 of the Game Changer .84s. The Christopher Bradley razor from Carve was mentioned 11 times. If you look in that far right-hand corner, you'll notice that I mentioned whether they said they liked the brass one or stainless or aluminum, and then which plates they preferred to use on that razor. So for Blackland, with a total of 9, 6 of those were for the Blackland Vector, which is a Feather Artist Club style razor, single edge razor. And there were 2 mentions for the Blackbird razor, which is a double edge razor. 6 total mentions for Feather. 2 of those were for the Artist Club SS folding shavette. So it's like the style of a folding straight razor, except it takes one of the Feather Artist Club style single edge razor blades. And then there were 2 mentions for the ASD2, which is a double edge razor. There were 4 mentions of the Leaf razor, and 3 of those mentioned specifically using the Leaf for head shaves. There were 4 mentions for Parkers, and 3 of those were for the Variant, which is an adjustable razor, double edged razor. And then for PAA, there were 3 mentions of the Ascension Twist adjustable razor, 2 of those in stainless, 1 of those in copper. And then 3 mentions for these 3 different models of the Edwin Jagger. I was a little surprised that Edwin Jagger didn't have more mentions. And then 3 mentions for the Fine Marvel razor. There were 3 mentions for Jim, 2 for the Micromatic, 1 for the Jim Jr., 3 mentions of the Mula R41 razor, which is regarded as an aggressive double-edged safety razor, and 3 mentions for the Rex Ambassador. There was also 3 mentions of the Vikings blade brand, 2 mentions of the Chieftain, and 1 mention of the Crusader adjustable. So let's look at the top razors across all brands. The razor mentioned most often was a Rockwell 6C with 13 mentions. You combine that with the Rockwell 6S, which is basically the same razor, just in different materials. The 6S is stainless. And you have a total of 23 mentions for the Rockwell 6C/6S style razor. And that's a razor that comes with 3 different plates. Each plate has different sides, so a total of 6 different plate adjustments to make it an adjustable double-edged safety razor. Then you have 11 mentions of the carved Christopher Bradley, 8 mentions of the Rockwell Game Changer, 4 for one size, 4 for the other, and then 6 mentions for the Blackline Vector, which again is a feather Artist Club style razor, single edge. And then 6 mentions, basically 7 when you include the 34G, for the 34C style razor from Merkur. There were several mentions of straight razors. 2 brands that stood out in the listings were 7 mentions of Max Sprecker's razors, and then 4 mentions of Wade & Butcher razors, which are of course vintage straight razors. So thanks again to everyone who did these videos and for their picks of the razors. Again, I'll be giving you access to a spreadsheet very shortly. I'll go back and put the link into all of these videos that show all of the picks from all of the different categories covered in the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 videos. Again, there's a playlist below with links to the videos done by all the shavers here, plus the first 2 videos that covered the soaps and the post shaves. And now, having done the soaps, the posts, the razors, we'll move on to blades in the next video and eventually to the brushes. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care, man.